There was no big break with the past. Moreover, I think that France tried to disengage militarily, only to come back and then re-engage again under the pretext that it was the African states themselves who were asking for it.
Joining us now for more on this story is Kabir Adamu. He is a security analyst and the managing director of the Beacon Consultancy Limited. Good to have you on the show, Kabir. You know, it's been 4 years since the French President Emmanuel Macron spoke in Burkina Faso. That's what Sena Sailan said in her news package. It's about a new chapter in France's relationship with Africa. Do you expect this summit will change much in terms of the relationship between Africa and France?
Thank you, and good evening. It's remarkable the attempt that the French president is making, in the sense that gathering youth without the heads of states and leaders of these countries is most likely going to upset these leaders. And so the kind of change, if at all any, would come out of this summit is going to be a slow change that is likely to be opposed by the leadership of the affected countries. Already, we're seeing that. You've mentioned in your comments in the opening report how the countries of Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia are currently in a diplomatic route. And of course, Mali, the report regarding Mali's involvement with Russia and how France is unhappy about that. In Niger, we've also monitored instances where youths that were invited to that summit rejected the invitation, mainly because as they felt their leaders were not part of it. And it's very likely that other countries too, that type of development has occurred. So it's very, very unlikely that we're going to see any remarkable change immediately. However, the future appears to be quite good in this regard, in the sense that these are the leaders of the future, the youth that France is engaging with, and currently the level of distrust between these youths and the governments of their countries is quite huge. So if the right messaging is put across by France in a manner that these youths are able to relate with that right messaging, then the expectation is that France would have a lot of capital in terms of the future relationship between France and the countries and these youths.
Kabir, since you mentioned the diplomatic route with some North African countries, let me ask you, I mean, it seems to me that the French president is sort of singing two different tunes, one on the African continent and a totally different one back home. I mean, one could agree that some of the bills that the French government has passed under Emmanuel Macron targets Muslims of African descent. I mean, if he's talking about better relationships, I mean, isn't there a bit of hypocrisy here?
Exactly, and this is the kind of reverberations that you hear from a significant portion of the population within the Sahel. I mean, one example that is always cited is what happened in Chad, where there was a coup, and somehow France endorsed that coup. But then the same coup happened in Mali and more recently in other countries, and then France opposed to it. So that perception of the inconsistency of the French foreign policy with regards to some of the known principles that the Western world, and in fact most democratic countries, have advanced, is unfortunately going against President Macron in this instance. And this is the kind of feedback that you get depending on what part of the Sahel you go to and who you engage with.
Right. Kabir Adamu, thank you very much for joining here on the NewsHour. I do appreciate your analysis.